Consumers today are surrounded by a growing wave of health products that promise better aging, more energy, faster recovery, stronger immunity, and longer performance. Supplements, peptides, longevity clinics, at-home testing, telemedicine, and AI tools are all marketed as ways to stay ahead of health problems. People want more insight into their bodies, easier access to preventative care, and tools that help them understand how their health is changing over time. The problem is trust. It is increasingly difficult to tell which products are actually effective and which rely mainly on branding, language, and early momentum. Some supplements look high quality but do not clearly disclose sourcing or testing standards. Certain peptide companies adopt clinical-sounding language without consistent medical oversight. Some longevity clinics claim to offer proactive care while still operating with disconnected testing, inconsistent follow-up, and limited medical guidance. For investors, operators, and consumers alike, the question is no longer what a product claims to do, but whether the company can clearly explain how it is built, tested, and supported. Health claims carry more weight than normal consumer promises. A company selling furniture or clothing may disappoint a buyer if the product does not meet expectations, but the impact is limited to preference and comfort. If a supplement, peptide, diagnostic tool, or longevity program falls short, the risk is personal and connected to the body. Because of that, the standard has to be higher. Companies can attract attention with language about vitality, recovery, immune support, or long-term performance. Without clinical grounding, proper testing, and clear oversight, however, those claims leave too much unanswered. You can't always control the narrative, but you can control how disciplined and transparent you are in how you operate, said William Basta, a founder, advisor, and investor focused on longevity, telemedicine, and technology-enabled healthcare systems. Across his work with ventures including Nirvana Health, Eterna IQ Health, X Consultancy, Zodi Life, and Project Oasis, he identifies companies that can withstand scrutiny before market demand forces them to. While outside opinions may be impossible to control, operational integrity is not. Companies can control the rigor of their documentation, the care used in their messaging, and the standards they follow before launch. Durable companies in this space usually share a few traits. Their products make biological sense, their operations are systemized, and their teams understand the regulatory and clinical boundaries of their category. They are also clear about what their products can and cannot do, and they avoid relying on vague claims to fill in the gaps. Companies driven by trends rarely gain long-term trust. For consumers, that means looking past the language on the label. For investors, it means asking whether a company has enough substance to survive closer review. When it comes to supplements and peptide products, the label is often the first thing a consumer sees, but it is not where trust begins. It starts earlier, with sourcing, formulation, testing, and oversight. A responsible company should know where its ingredients come from, whether its suppliers have a clean compliance history, and how each batch is verified. It should also be able to explain whether a third-party lab reviewed the product, whether heavy metals were screened for, and whether microbial contamination testing was completed. These details are not as marketable as claims around energy or recovery, but they are what separate a serious health product from one built on hype. Ethical sourcing is documentation-driven, not branding-driven, Will Basta explained. In his experience, that distinction matters because wellness brands can look credible while revealing very little. Clean packaging, confident language, and a polished website do not replace records. In health, transparency has to include ingredient origin, supplier history, batch-level verification, dosing integrity, and ingredient synergy. Formulation is another area where marketing can get ahead of substance. A long ingredient list may look impressive, but more does not always mean better. In some cases, it can make a product harder to understand. Strong formulas have a reason for each ingredient. They use proper dosing and avoid unnecessary fillers, inflammatory bases, or hidden proprietary blends. Industries that rely on vague labeling, exaggerated claims, or underdosed formulas tend to lose trust over time as scrutiny increases. Most people want to catch problems early rather than wait until their symptoms get worse. Healthcare today, however, remains largely reactive. People seek care after symptoms appear, entering a fragmented system where labs, clinicians, and lifestyle guidance operate separately. Follow-up is inconsistent and recommendations are often broad rather than personalized or continuous. Nirvana Health is a precision health and longevity clinic built around proactive care. It focuses on early intervention and long-term health optimization by combining diagnostics, clinical oversight and regenerative approaches in one care model. Eterna IQ Health extends that same idea through advanced testing and health insights for individuals and partner organizations. The goal is not more data, but better use of it by connecting diagnostics to clinical interpretation and everyday health decisions. Telemedicine improves access and continuity of care, while regenerative health focuses on maintaining function and preventing decline before symptoms appear. Preventative care only works when these pieces are connected. Testing without explanation is incomplete, and data without follow-up is not useful. That is why clinical oversight matters. Physician involvement keeps care grounded, consistent and accountable. Without it, prevention becomes a marketing word instead of a better way to deliver care. AI is making healthcare faster, but faster does not mean more trustworthy. Used well, it can organize data, identify patterns and support decisions. Used poorly, it can make weak products or unclear care models seem more advanced than they are. X Consultancy helps organizations design and structure AI systems in healthcare and other data-heavy fields. In many cases, the issue is not access to technology, but lack of direction in how it is used. In healthcare, AI is useful for processing information and improving operations, but it cannot replace doctors, clinical judgment, or accountability for patient outcomes. In other words, innovation is only valuable when it's applied with restraint. At the same time, healthcare is becoming more data-driven. Tools like wearables, glucose monitors, genetic tests and epigenetic testing are giving people more continuous information about their health. Companies like True Diagnostic, NeuroAge, Dexcom and Aura are part of this shift. In digital therapeutics, recent FDA clarity is helping define how products are approved, adopted and paid for, making it easier to distinguish between clinically validated tools and those without sufficient evidence. Meanwhile, much of longevity research is still in early stages, where long-term outcomes and consistent validation are still being established. For investors, this explains why longevity and preventative health are growing areas. For consumers, it shows why standards matter more than ever. If a product measures health, aging, or risk, there need to be strict rules around how that data is used and what claims are made. Technology can expand what is possible in healthcare, but it cannot compensate for weak science, unclear claims, or poor oversight. Over the next 5 years, Basta expects longevity and consumer health to become more disciplined as the market continues shifting toward preventative care. That shift will raise expectations across the industry. Companies will need stronger sourcing transparency, better testing standards, more biomarker-based approaches, clearer use of AI in personalization, and more defined regulatory boundaries. It will also reduce space for companies that rely mainly on branding without operational proof. Supplements and peptides will need more consistent validation around ingredients, dosing and safety, while longevity clinics will need ongoing medical oversight and structured follow-up, not just testing and intake. AI-enabled health tools will need accountability for how they generate and use data in health decisions. Across all categories, companies that cannot clearly explain how their products are built, tested and supported will struggle to maintain trust as consumers and investors become more informed. Project Oasis is a long-term initiative within Basta's broader work that explores how wellness, environment, and community design intersect. It is based on the idea that health outcomes are shaped not only by healthcare access, but also by the physical and social environments people live in every day. If the next phase of health is about prevention, then health companies cannot look only at isolated interventions. They also have to consider the conditions that influence how people live, make choices and maintain long-term well-being. The difference between real health innovation and wellness hype is not how advanced a company sounds. It is whether the company can show the work behind its claims before consumers, regulators or investors ask for it.